Welcome, welcome. You listen to 360 Info. I'm your host, Hamtonio. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Got a great show for you today. One of the guys who came up with that expression that I stole is on our show today, Dr. David Whitaker. Yes, we just can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. As far as talking about this global shift and this global change that we're in right now, it's very important, guys, because you know it's so many things going on around us and even in the cosmos. I don't know if you guys even know about 3-Eye Atlas that is going on and entering in our solar system, and another entity that they don't know what it is called Swan. Look them up. They're passing Mars. One of them, the 3-Eye Atlas, is passing Mars right now. They don't know what it is. They think it has intelligence. It has 8 or 9 little entities all around it that they think could be probes or scouts or things of that nature. That's going right along with it. And each one of those probes alone, they say can power a nation. Each one of them. So they don't know what it is. They don't know if it's been there before. They talk about some ancient stuff that talks about this green tail something coming. So we don't know if it's every 2,200 years this thing is coming into our solar system, but they definitely say it has intelligence. So I'm saying all that to say it's a lot going on and we need to stay focused. So I could think of hardly no, no other person that could come on and talk about some of these things and some of these observations and I always talk about Africa and things like that. So this gentleman has boots on the ground over in Africa, and he comes back and forth, and he delivers some powerful messages to us. So I'm talking about no other than David Whitaker, Nana Kwamina. He's on and with us today. He's an author, he's a chief, he's a lawyer, he's a psychologist, and he's just all around decent person, and he's about our people. So I'm gonna welcome him to our show. Brother David Whitaker, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing fantastic, or that, as they say, I'm blacktastic this morning, and I'm happy to be on. I'm happy to be up, and I got a couple of corrections, a couple of observations. It's interesting that you describe these things that they say have intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and everything has intelligence except us. We have artificial intelligence. The word artificial means, by definition, that it's not legitimate. We
Mm-hmm.
have artificial intelligence, and all these other things have real intelligence. So we have to analyze what we listen to and what we hear about. I'd like to make one clarification on your opening remarks.
Mm.
Uh, I was in a conference in Ghana not too long ago, and one of the chiefs attributed that statement to me.
Which statement was that, Doc?
What do people do for themselves depends upon what they think about themselves.
Oh, okay, okay, uh-huh.
And I added something to that statement, but you gave me credit that I don't deserve because I didn't come up with that.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that statement from our revered ancestor now, John Henry Clark.
Mm.
John Henry Clark said, what do people do for themselves depends upon what they think about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I added to that, what they think about themselves depends on what they know about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know about yourself depends upon what you've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't take full credit, certainly not from John Henry Clark, but I'm honored to be mentioned in the same sentence with one of our revered scholars and ancestors now that put us on the path to consciousness and analytics so that we could be aware of our surroundings and
Mm-hmm.
understand the dynamics that have always operated against us since ancient Kemet. We've been in this pressure cooker with these people ever since then. And every day we look at something, it seems that We are not getting out, and we're not getting any smarter, and the clock is ticking, and we have opportunities all around us that we seem to not notice.
Mm. You know what, Doc? It's something that I've been explaining, or you can say talking about lately when we're speaking about our present condition. And if I think I don't know if it was with Wayne last week or the week before that when you were on, and I was just basically saying that what we're experiencing right now is the European experience. We experience how they see things, their worldview, their take on nature, their take on God, and things. Because we're not controlling any of that. We're living in that environment. Like I say again, I always said, but from fifth grade, I pledge allegiance to the flag. How your school system is set up, and all of that is basically from the worldview of the European. This is what you're seeing being displayed in front of you. How streets are made, how houses are made. Even though they stole some of the knowledge on how to do those things, but you're getting an expression of how they see things should work. And how they deal with other foreigners, people who can I say we're gonna be judged on how you judge. How you acted with the people that are lesser than you. How did you treat them as a community? Because we supposed to be able to a society that consider itself high tech or civilization. You gotta, it's about inclusion or how you treat the people that maybe is different from you, have a different religion, look different from you. How do you treat those people? So this is what we're dealing with, and we have to recognize that it's not. And when you feel a little different, or you feel like you know you're struggling within yourself, since you're being a psychologist as well, it's not sitting well with you. It's not sitting well with your DNA on how we govern ourselves at this point. Your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, one of our other revered ancestors now, Ivan van Sertima, said that we have been locked in a box for 500 years. And after 500 years, we think that box is reality. We haven't been out. So we only know what we know. And we respond to what we've been experienced. And there's a box outside of that box. As a matter of fact, this phrase that says think outside of the box means to think outside of the orientation that you believe is so real and so accurate and so comfortable. It's thinking outside of that box that allows you to see a bigger world. We appreciate that psychologically with young people because we know that one of the important things to give a young person that's growing up in, say, an urban area is to give them exposure to places outside of their neighborhood. Because if you don't do that, they believe that the whole world is
Yes.
structured the way they see it in their neighborhood of 2 or 3 blocks. They think that's actually the entire planet. So when you expose them to something different, it begins to open up their consciousness to realize that everybody is not poor. All streets are not like my street. All houses are not like mine. So I'm stretching my consciousness based upon different experiences. Now we have, after 500 years, as Van Sertima put it, after 500 years in a box, we actually believe and we listen to the people that configured this box as if they know everything that needs to be done. They determine what's correct, what's incorrect. We go along with it, and then we argue with each other about which one of us has interpreted their narrative the best. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're all totally confused. We're not looking at the world for what it really is. There's a whole lot going on outside of our small sphere of consciousness. And the more we expose ourselves to it, the more we have a broader understanding of what's going on in the world and in
Mm-hmm.
the universe.
Mm-hmm.
If all you know is the projects, you are a project mentality. If all you know is the 4 blocks from your house, then your worldview cannot stretch beyond that. You don't know anything else. You haven't seen anything else. You're not open to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you meet someone that says something different, you have, ironically, you have the nerve to call them confused. You tell them things like everybody knows this, everybody knows that, and they don't know anything. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but this has all been done deliberately. So we can't blame ourselves or our people, because one of the terms I came across that I think is so important for us to begin to internalize a little bit is balkanization. The Balkan Empire that was broken up and restructured is where that term comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind it, if you think about what it actually is defined as, it's defined as taking something and breaking it up into smaller parts that have some natural antagonism amongst themselves so that they will never come together.
Mm-hmm.
And you give them a little power. Each one has their own power, which gives them the feeling of being in charge. But the puppeteer knows that you can't do anything with that power all by yourself unless it's joined with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're at odds with these other people, you'll never decide to come together, because you'll lose some of your own sense of authority and decision making and power. And
Mm-hmm.
think about this now. You think about everything that's done in this societal structure that we have here. I wish we'd stop erroneously calling ourselves living in a culture, because we don't live in a culture. We live in a society. A culture provides specific functions. It teaches you how to interpret reality. It teaches you how to behave. It teaches you how to uh, provide for yourself. It teaches you how to protect yourself from the elements, from outsiders, from diseases, from everything. And it demands that you transfer all that knowledge to the next generation. So we don't have any places like this. So we can stop saying that it's our culture. It's not our culture, it's our behavior. We have behavioral patterns that we call culture that don't fit the definition of culture. So we're just monkey see, monkey do behavior. That's not culture, because if it was culture, we wouldn't always be asking for somebody to come up with something. We wouldn't be looking for how are we going to take care of ourselves. We wouldn't be looking for the government to provide for us if we had culture. And many
Mm-hmm.
of the people that we envy, that we consider Caribbeans, or we consider Hispanics, or we consider people from different parts of the world, when we see them come together, we see evidences of culture,
Mm-hmm. That's
because
right,
they're
brother.
not worried about the same things we tend to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Mind living 10 in a place and have a little bit of room. And to them, that's culture, because they're protecting themselves, they're advancing themselves, they're providing the economic foundation to thrive. And we're trying to get a house in the suburbs, get 2 cars and a picket fence, and do these things. And we have nobody around us that really looks like us, that gives us any sense of protection, any sense of development, any sense of understanding what's going on. We don't even know the person that lives right next door to us or an apartment above us.
Mm-hmm.
And we talking about we have a culture. We don't have culture. We own islands everywhere we are. So the best people ask me, well, why you like Ghana so much? Or why you like Africa so much? Because in Africa, you see clear elements of culture.
Mm-hmm.
You see community development. You see what it means to be living in a community with other people like you, and they all know you, and you all know them. And they're all trying to look out for each other. They may not have the material possessions that we might have here, but none of their stuff is leased, none of their stuff is on credit, and their
That's
bottom
true.
line is better than ours. They don't owe for anything because they only have what they can afford to provide.
Hmm.
So if they decide that they have a headache on Monday morning, they don't feel like going out, they don't have to go out because the bank is not going to call them to tell them that they're behind on no payment. The creditors are not going to buzz them and say, well, that TV that you got, the weekly payment is due on that TV. They're not going to get that because everything they have, they own it out.
Hmm.
So they have a certain freedom of mind and a freedom of functioning that
Hmm.
they can decide from any day whether they feel like doing something or not.
Hmm.
In the context that we live in, that we call culture, that's really a societal structure. We're in the Hunger Games. We just don't see it on TV. We don't see it in the movie, but we're in the Hunger Games. There's not a day that comes we can afford not to go to work. You can't decide not to go to work because you don't feel well. If you're sick, you have to go to work. If you're aching, you have to go to work. If your children are sick, you still have to go to work because we're on a fiscal treadmill that if we had culture, we wouldn't have to go to work. We could go next door. We could leave our child with the neighbor. We could do the things we used to do when I grew up.
Hmm.
I was 6 or 7 years old. My neighborhood, all the people knew me. I could be at anybody's house in the neighborhood, and it would be just like being at my own house. We don't
Hmm.
have that anymore. By the same token, anybody in the neighborhood could reprimand me and punish me, and then go tell my mother how I behaved, and I would get punished even worse than what they did. So we had a sense of community that we don't have now. So it would behoove us to stop pretending that we have culture because we don't.
Hmm.
We should be learning about our culture so that we could implement those cultural elements that would help us to function better instead of kidding ourselves and telling ourselves and creating this illusion that we have things happening that are not happening.
Hmm. Yes, yes. When you said that, it's something um, that it reminds me of, what Dr. Amos Wilson said in reference to culture. That he called it a reactionary culture is what we have based on how the system has treated us. And so we come up with this hodgepodge of way to get along and deal with ourselves. And unfortunately, again, it deals with individualism. It's not based on us working in tandem and with each other and things like that. And then a group of people who may have a culture, they're not sitting around here begging for somebody else. Now, how does it look for you begging another ethnic group they teach your history to your children and get mad? They want a halfway protest. You're really not doing a good job at even protesting that. You can see what's going on with I believe it is the SB1 that they dealing with. What Trump is talking about now with high school and the books and stuff. So you're not even making a good fight in reference to that. With them taking it. So my point is, it shouldn't even be an issue in a sense. About teaching history. What should counter that particular situation? Now, of course, we can go through some legalities. Of course, we over here we live in under these rule of governments and things like that. But the next step for us should be what you're doing right there, Doc. And if you can't put a school or so together, what you should be doing is then, like I've always said, all these storefronts in your neighborhood, basement in these churches and things of that nature. You can have your Saturday schools and your Sunday schools teaching your histories just like the Jews and anybody else did. Make shift, do what you can. Don't sit up here and complain and let these folks just do what they do in reference to it. Of course, you can fight them on the policy front and the legal front, but at the same time making moves and doing for yourself. And you see how well that, you know, we constantly in a position to where somebody else is have the power over us to pull the rug from us, you know, from our jobs, now from our education, our children. We begging and depending on somebody else to do something for us, God.
Well, Lynn, I'm trying to do two things at
Yeah,
once.
I know what you're doing.
So
I
I'm
know.
but the mere fact that we would ask someone else to teach us our history should tell us we don't have a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you had a culture, your culture would do that. So the mere fact that you ask someone else to do it should tell you that you don't have any culture.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any sense of culture at all. Because that's a silly question to ask someone to teach you your history. Think about how ridiculous that sounds.
It sounds real ridiculous, man. Real
So
ridiculous.
that's an
And I
indication.
and I like the point too. I'm gonna give you a little time so you can take care of that. But I like the point too that we should understand and know when you talked about the assets over there, even though we may look at Africa, you know, and those people is not having things, but guess what? They not owing somebody a whole bunch of money. Just this is what I said that even that I wrote and talked about. Now, ask yourself, what large sum of money that you owe another black person? Most of your big bills and stuff that you owe is on some other ethnic group that money. Some bank, some other body, some other ethnic group or whatever. You don't owe nobody black any large sums of money. So that means that you're indebted to them. So the point I'm making about assets, like you just said, over in Africa, even though they own that stuff, they're not paying the money that we pay. Whatever they got, they own. So when you actually add those dollars and add that up, they actually have a greater amount of wealth than we do in some senses of the word.
The bottom line is more positive.
Yes.
We're in debt, and another if I could accomplish anything today would be to help people understand that culture is what we need and culture is what we don't have. So stop lying to ourselves about it, because part of the reason you don't owe black people much is they wouldn't loan you that much because they don't trust you and you don't trust them,
Mhm.
and you think the things that you owe money for are valuable because of where you got it from. So you automatically think it's better, even if it's ice. You think it's better if you got it from a certain group than if you got it from a black person. So you don't deal with each other anyway. And we get elaborate explanations for why we don't deal with each other, which is
Mhm.
another indication that if you had culture, that would be an idiotic statement to be making. What people are going to look out for you more than your own people? Nobody. Everybody else is living off of you. So, so nobody's going to do better by you than your own people if you weren't still trapped in this box, as Ivan Van Sertima said. After 500 years, you think that your enemy is a person that looks like you. That's how confused we actually are. We think our enemy is someone that looks like us.
Mhm.
And even nature tells you that birds of a feather flock together. The birds don't think that they are their enemies.
Mhm. I mean, is that nature we talking about, the
That,
doc?
that's the natural world where the creator left all the rules that we need to be aware of and understand and practice are demonstrated to us every day in nature.
Hmm.
Even dogs don't go to the bathroom where they eat.
and we still, some of those basic things we still dealing with. It's like I say, I think we just out of our whole God consciousness, a whole understanding, our connection to nature, all of that. And what you said, that seven-letter word, I've been preaching for 30 years, and every scholar that I had the pleasure of bringing to town, to knowing, to converging, I asked those questions about that seven-letter word, and I've could come to the conclusion, and I have it in my book as well, is that is the key, that is the glue, because I asked myself a question at an early age: how these other ethnic groups is able to do it and we're not able to do it, where we don't trust one another. So I always say culture does what for you? Teaches you how to do business with one another, how to resolve problems with one another, what the purpose of a man, woman, and child. And your culture and your spirituality it encompasses each other. And like Dr. Amos Wilson said, a culture is economics, meaning that if our culture say that we wear these hats like this, somebody in the community is making these hats like this, and the money is being transferred around. That's what a culture is, and that's why I work so hard and spend a lot of time trying to and keep reiterating about Africa, about our culture, what our ancestors have left for us to, and laid down the groundwork, for this thing called culture, because it brings all this together to a head. Your thought on that?
Well, there's a distinction that I keep mentioning, but and maybe it makes some sense, and maybe it only makes sense to me. But here's a problem that we have. We are by nature African black people. We are by nature a communal people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We evolved in a place where it would be easy to multiply people. The environmental conditions were conducive to it. The food was readily available. Resources were at hand. So it was easy for us to replicate ourselves into large groups.
Okay.
Once you have a group of people, if you just have a radio show or a podcast and no one ever comes on it and nobody ever watches it, you can say and do anything you want. There are no standards.
Hmm.
Whatever you feel like, you just do it. But once you have a guest on the show, there's certain things that you have to do and the guest has to do in order to make the show work. So so now you have to have some kind of structure that you don't need if you're by yourself. If you're by
Mm-hmm.
yourself and you live by yourself, you don't have to be an honest person. If you're on an island by yourself, you don't have to be honest. You don't have to be dependable. You don't have to be timely. Your word don't have to be kept because there's
Okay.
nobody else to talk to. It's
Mm-hmm.
just you. But as soon as you get with other people, you have to have societal structures, expectations. How are we going to behave? What's going to happen if we don't behave as we expect ourselves to behave? Now
Mm-hmm.
we need a way to manage ourselves.
Yes.
We are by nature people that have shown the world how groups of people can manage themselves and function harmoniously. Even though you have some conflict, you still can work it out and figure out how to do it. And we know it's successful because our people populated the whole planet Earth. So it's
Right.
not like they we were just hit and miss. They figured these things out. So, but here's our problem. Here's our problem. One big psychological problem is the people that are in charge of much of the societal structure now are people that evolved in the ice age. They don't need other people. They just need to survive the elements. So their word doesn't have to be kept. They don't have to promise you something and actually do it. They just have to survive the elements. They just have to find food and shelter and look out for themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
they live in a world of me, 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 me. We live in a world and have evolved in a world where we're talking about us, us, us. So whenever we try to mimic and try to become and try to meet the standards of a people whose DNA is only talking about them, we alienate ourselves from the people like us. So now we want to be just like other people who only think about themselves. They don't care about you. They don't care if you die. They don't care what you say. They don't care what the rules are because they'll make a new rule that satisfies them. So our biggest crime or sin against ourselves is to mimic other
Mm-hmm.
people unlike us. That's what John Henry Clark says. We are so in love with the things least like us. So if
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you want to live in the suburbs next to these people, you got to be prepared to say to yourself that they, when if stuff hits the fan, they are going to look out for just them. You got to be
Mm,
prepared to say that. And you got to be prepared to say, you know, every day you're functioning, you're living on your own. Nobody's coming for you. Look at
mm.
what's happening in the world today. In the face of the whole world, look at what's happening in Israel and Palestine. In front of the whole world.
Yeah, yeah.
Whole world sees every day powerful people that obviously don't care about other people, and they are willing to kill these people 24/7 with global coverage.
Mm,
So
mm,
you can't say you care about things when this is the way you behave, and the whole world is saying, you really got to stop that. We got to
mm-hmm.
bring it into this. You can't starve people to death. You can't do this. You can't do that. And the people say, basically, we do whatever we want to do.
It,
That's what. So how can you? I don't see how anybody can argue that.
mm,
They say
mm,
we do whatever we want to do. You
mm.
can't stop us. This is the way we are. That's what you really just. You're just not saying that part. This is who we are.
Mm,
This is what
mm,
we do.
mm, mm,
Looking
mm.
out for our own personal survival or what we want to do.
Mm. Doc, and a good example is that which they tout in front of you all the time when they talk in politics is when they say NATO. What countries make up NATO? You know what I mean? They're telling you right there, this is about the protection of us. They telling you right there.
This is not a secret.
It's
This is
not a
not a
secret.
secret.
They're telling you right there. And see, and what you was talking about right there, and how we going along with this, and is over 200. They say, if I'm not mistaken, over when we talk about over there in Israel, what's that's going on over there, they say over 250 journalists have been killed. Just trying. They've been over there. As far as we can remember, back to World War I, people going over there reporting what's going on in the war and any conflicts around. Here it is: over 200 journalists have been killed. So, I mean, you can see it's a cover up as far as the information is because now, yeah, I'm gonna say this. We need to do some more research on it. The Ben Gurion Canal. Somebody do some research on the Ben Gurion Canal. It's a canal that goes right through Gaza. You know what I'm saying? Now, are we clearing the area because they want to put this canal and somehow nullify the Suez Canal at times because it got log jam and had issues? Look it up, y'all. It's a plan that's already been out there and dealing with coming straight through. Now, to be the civilized way, hey, why don't you talk to the people over there? Everybody benefit from the canal, whatever profits they are. No, They just want to just wipe out the people, take their land from them, send them somewhere else, disperse them as refugees somewhere, and take it. And so, going back to what you just said on that, it has to be insane for us to still want to line yourself up with that and not even open enough to see if there's another way to do some things.
Well, some things are so obvious. At a point, you're in denial to not see it. You just got blinders on because certain things are so obvious that it's undeniable in real life. So you have to make up stories to convince yourself that it's plausible, it's legitimate, it's viable, because nothing objective would say that this makes any sense. And the whole world is saying, stop this, stop this, stop this, but you won't stop. So you're out of control, or you're in denial, or you
Or
don't
it must
care,
be a serious plan
or
going
whatever it is,
on.
but you don't care. So you can't be convinced. You don't have to be convinced of the truth. The truth convinces you because it's the truth. So you can make up any story you want. It doesn't change the fact of what a thing is. It still is that.
Mm, mm, mm,
And so, but I'm just saying that part of this is DNA. If you grow up in the ice age where it's just you and your family, and all you have to do, your main objective every day is to find food. That's your main objective every day is to find food. That's why they find in the fossils, they found that people ate other people because you can't always find food.
mhm,
It's not easy to find a walrus or polar bear all the time if you're in the Caucasus Mountains during the ice. I suspect theoretically too that if you had just you and a small family and there's nobody else around, there's no city council meetings, there's no elections, there's no group decisions. You got to get up and you got to go out and find food.
mhm,
That's what you got to do today, tomorrow, every day. And food is scarce. There's no fruits and vegetables like we enjoyed in Kemet, just growing everywhere. There's none of that. You got to find an animal or you got to find a fish in this ice. And so the worst thing that can happen to you as a father, as a man, is to come home, and this is my theory, and I may be totally wrong, but it seems plausible to me. You come home and find that your wife is pregnant. Now
mm,
you got another mouth to feed.
mm. Okay, okay.
So, in my way of thinking, it is plausible that the reason that the society is structured the way it is, because these men really have a deep seated, unpleasant sentiment about women because they produce extra bodies to feed at a time where feeding was very, very difficult. So you blame the woman for bringing yet another mouth that I've got to go find food for. And that is very difficult to do. So it's all your fault.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
think of all the structural things that women are blamed for.
yeah,
That
yeah.
has
They blame for deceiving the app, biting the app, causing us to bite the apple.
it has to come from some psychological experience. And to me, that is a plausible experience.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah,
As
yeah.
if as if this pregnancy had nothing to do with you. But
Mhm,
since you gotta go out and find more animals because there's more people to feed, and these people, even today, they blame something on someone else. I don't care what it is. They never take responsibility.
mhm. Oh
They're
yeah.
killing thousands of Palestinians because they say on October 3rd, 7th, or whatever it was,
Hmm,
they go back to that one day.
hmm,
That's
hmm.
the explanation for all of this.
My goodness.
Conditions have been going on for 75 years.
But here's the thing too, Doc. But check this out. How many? And this is again to show you how disconnected we as a people. How many black folks are really enraged in reference to this, racial wise? We just disconnect. We're not even paying no too much attention to that's going on. You'll see no big march as far as black folks. Now I understand it's other people, yeah, and nobody came to our rescue. But I'm just saying that the saying and always is them today, and tomorrow is gonna be you.
Right.
But let me pause for 1 second. Doc. I just want to welcome everybody to the show here. You listen to 1490 WERE. We having a great conversation with our good brother Nala Kwamina II, or better known as Dr. Qua David Whitaker. We thank you for joining in, and those who are on the journey, please stick and stay with the journey, and like and subscribe as well. Our good brother Vince is out on location doing some things. He's taking a little pause for the cause. So he'll be back with us shortly. So y'all just our good brother Vince is always there, doing what he do and has been doing. We had a little talk, and we talked about our missions of actually working with our community, giving back to our community, and that's our role. And I think that's my role, is making this bridge and connection back to our culture, for what we started this conversation about our culture, because I think it's all about that. Our good brother. But go ahead, my brother.
It all comes down to first of us getting an understanding of what culture is and what are the elements of culture. Quiet as just kept. Umar Johnson talks about this all the time. Not exactly the way I'm saying it, but he talks about the various elements that a community would possess if it was culturally oriented. You'd have a
Mm-hmm.
school, you'd have a bank, you'd have a grocery store, you'd have things that the community would recognize that are components of a uh, self-directed condition that you're living in. We got all these things, all the things that we say we have, but we don't have any cultural institutions.
Mm-hmm.
You got people with plenty of money, and I say no sense. You got plenty of money, but you have no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Mm-hmm.
community that you live in still doesn't have its own grocery store. It still doesn't have its own bank. It still doesn't have its own medical center. It still doesn't even have its own hotel where you could have a conference. You got to go to somebody else's places to do whatever you do. That tells you that you're feeding their culture. You're
Yes.
feeding their economics. You're feeding their subsistence. You're sending their children to college. You're getting braces for their children. You're sending their children to the dentist. And then we complain that we don't have the resources to do the things that we need to do. So we end up going and asking them to support our functions.
Okay. Oh, hold on, Doc. Hold on, Doc. Wait a minute now. Now, what's this? Okay, you're a psychologist. So, what's the psychosis that is going on right now, Doc, with that?
Well, I'll go back to what I said. If you buy into someone else's narrative of what's right, of what's wrong, what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, you bought into their whole structure of life. So you're just mimicking it, you're just following their playbook. But their playbook is not designed for your success. Their playbook is designed for their success. And they need to exploit you in order for them to succeed according to their playbook. And we are so naive and so gullible and so lacking in confidence that we think somehow to support them also is advancing us.
Mm.
That is insanity.
Yeah.
We are giving everything, all our resources we give to them.
Mhm.
And then we go ask them to give us pennies to support the things that we'd like to do. It's not logical.
It-
It's
it-
not intelligent. It's not workable.
but
It's
but
not
but Doc,
sustainable.
I mean, we call ourselves intelligent peoples at times, almost on every front that you just mentioned. Vince even talks about it when we talk about cargo, those art foundations, and when we tallying up how much money the African American community is getting for this cause, how much everybody else is getting funded all over the place. But it always come to us. We got the small, even with the DEI stuff, we got the smallest share of support on every arena. When are you going to understand that? When are you going to see that? You know, and I guess maybe we just spoil by going to their facilities. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to talk about when we have a couple groups, investment groups, they want to pull their money together and get something, and they want to maybe buy a bar or something to that. But all our events, we got to go see the executive caterers that have our functions, and they watching their clocks and say, okay, y'all gonna have to get out of here soon. We can't even throw a decent function. But my point is, you might have to sacrifice there. We might not have that type of status right away, but we can work up and build that way if we support ourselves. Take these old buildings around here and make movie houses of it, and make our movies and show the movies. We had our own sports teams and things of that nature back in the day. You can do that stuff, but it comes with some sacrifices. But I guess we too spoiled. you know, we want the new facilities. We want to make $1 million right off the bat.
See, you put a nice spin on it. You said, well, maybe we're spoiled,
Yeah, yeah.
but perhaps we're deranged. We're not spoiled. We're deranged. We can't. We're unwilling to look at ourselves in the mirror and say we've been played, we've been tricked, as Malcolm said, we've been bamboozled, we've been run amok. So we can say we spoiled, but we wouldn't have any reason being spoiled. We don't have nothing by comparison to what they have. We don't have that, so how can we get spoiled? We're just telling ourselves stories. We're making up stories so we won't feel bad.
Okay, hold on, Doc. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna give you something. And this argument that we get from people, we get this argument. Well, this is our country. We built it, and we have a right, because when you start talking about maybe going somewhere else and putting roots somewhere else, well, we built this country. Yes, we did. Here's my answer to that. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. But let me see what your take on this. But we built it. You were hired without pay to build it. It's not your stuff. You was building somebody else's project, the America project. It wasn't your project. You
Well,
know. Go ahead.
let's put it in the context of people's actual experience. Let's imagine hypothetically, when I grew up, they said you can always get a job at the post office.
Uh-huh.
You can always get a job at General Motors or Ford Motor Company on the assembly line. But nobody in their right mind, nobody ever said that we built these cars, so therefore they ours. We
Okay.
deliver, we handle all this mail, so therefore that mail is our mail. We always know when you're on the job, you are working to do something. The stuff is not
It's
yours.
not yours.
So you can tell yourself, as I turned out 600 cars today, but you're still going to go home on the bus because none of those cars are yours. So we just tell ourselves things to make ourselves feel better.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we built the country,
Uh-huh.
but it's difficult to say it's our country. It's the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like Malcolm said, we talk about our astronauts. We don't have no astronauts. The government's astronauts. You are not the government. Justice Taney told us in the Dred Scott case, when Dred Scott said he was a citizen because he had traveled around with his owner, and they went into states where slavery was no longer legitimate, so therefore he was a citizen. Just as Taney said in the majority opinion of Dred Scott, African people, black people, were never considered to be citizens in the context of the Constitution. And moreover, black people have no rights to which white people have to observe.
Mm.
So that was 1857. So what has changed since then that would make us believe that this structure, no matter how much we worked on it, no matter how much toiling we done, if you look at the structure of it, what is it that we own? Claude Anderson says at the end of slavery, we had one half of 1% of the wealth in the country.
Yes.
2025, we still have one half of 1% of the wealth of the
Yes.
country, if that much.
Mm.
So
Mm.
tell me, realistically, objectively, honestly, what do we own? And if we own all this stuff, why are we going and asking people to support stuff for us if we own all this stuff? It don't add up. So we got to stop kidding ourselves. I tell people all the time, I was heartbroken when I finally realized that there was no Santa Claus.
Mm.
I was heartbroken. I waited up every December 24th all night if I could to see Santa, to hear the sleigh on the roof and catch Santa coming down the chimney. My mom and dad carried on this narrative, told me every time, well, Santa was here, but you have fallen asleep, David. He sat right here. See, that's his coffee cup right there. We had coffee with him. I believed all this stuff. But the day came where I had to say to myself, there is no Santa Claus. This is all a story. It's made up. Macy's department store created this for a marketing strategy. David, I don't care what you say to yourself, this is not real. Get over it. Move on. That's what we're not willing to do.
Mm.
We keep telling ourselves Santa stories and the Easter Bunny, long after you realize that rabbits don't lay eggs.
Mm.
So these stories can't make any sense. But we keep telling ourselves we're just putting spins on it to make ourselves feel better. Learning requires you to acknowledge the facts and learn from that.
Mm. It's we all know it's a big mind trick and mind game, and they use electronics to, I mean, and that's the very reason why they want to control it all. They know because art, like we talk about it, arts at times it could be a serious motivation to a people. That vibration, that energy, those, see, when you understand those things, that's when you're getting into the laws of vibration and energy and things of that nature that that we can use to our advantage to stabilize this craziness that we got going on, and to unite us and motivate us into something. You know what I mean? That's why I think you need a constant barrage of this type of information and positive affirmations always. That's why even in naming yourself, that you're spewing out positive energy every time you call somebody's name, every time you see some images. That's what they did over in Kemet or in Egypt. Looking at imagery is very important. When you start dealing with the psychic and what you see and what you internalize. That's why you have all the crazy images that you see on TV. You're a product of all of that music, and that's why when you have a little break in church or something, or you're saying something positive, that's the way, and that's why you feel the way you do. And that's why we're having so much of a hard time being able to control this thing called media. You know, that's why they wanted to stop the deal with Byron Allen and I think it was Ice Cube that was trying to get some networks, and Bill Cosby trying to get some networks. They don't want you to tap into this power of imagery and this power of having a national voice. You got about 2 minutes, Doc.
Who was it? The FBI director. Uh, I can't call his name right now, but anyway, the FBI director. I may his name will come to me in a minute, but he
In the
was
past, Hoover.
in the past. Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Hoover was asked by a reporter, "What is the greatest threat to America?" The greatest threat to America. And Hoover, without hesitation, said, which goes to what the point you're making. Hoover, without hesitation, said, the unification of the Negro.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest threat to America was the possibility that black people would become unified.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's the greatest threat to America, according to the director of the FBI, what would you do anytime you saw someone that seemed to have the possibility, the potential, the charisma to unite black people? You would eliminate them, marginalize them, discredit them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've already said that the greatest threat to America is the unification of these people. So whether it's Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, uh, Huey Newton, uh, the Move people, Minister Farrakhan, whoever it is, Muhammad Ali, whoever it is that seems like they have the capacity to stimulate and move the energy, the psyche, the vibrations of these people
Mm-hmm.
into a unified whole is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be a mystery to us what happens. That's why we should be unified.
Mm. Yeah, okay. I mean, we're gonna segue over. Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you too much longer, but we're gonna segue over just a little bit. We'd like to thank our listeners for that's listening to us on the airwaves on 1490 WERE. We're having thank you for tuning in and enjoying this great conversation with Nana Kwamina the second. For those who's going to stick and stay with us, we're going to segue over to the journey with Antonio. We like to thank our good brother Tone for keeping it all together and make helping this platform, do what it do. I appreciate you, my good brother. Also, today, up until I think the 20 something at the African Museum, Francis is doing Ghana 2025. I think it starts about 3 o'clock. You can go over there and participate. And I think our good brother, brother Alvin and Calvin Brooks is going to be over there as well. Always imparting what our good brother Vince would say: know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make it a great day, Cleveland. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll stay on with you for a few minutes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we're going on over into the journey with Antonio at this particular time. But, you know, again, it was a question I was going to ask you at the top of the show, then I think it pretty much would have led to close to what we were talking about right now. In your opinion, and looking at this global situation that we're dealing with, the changes, I mean, you have to be on a rock not to feel and see what's going on right now in the globe with Abraham, with other countries, like you said, with up in Gaza, what's going on, Ukraine, Russia, the BRICS program, what Trump is doing here with Mexico. It's just all over the place what we're doing. So, black folks and black folks in America, in your opinion, what should we be doing in preparation for what's going on?
Here's my biggest fear, and my biggest fear in the world. See, demographics cannot be altered between now and Saturday night of next week, next month, next year. The demographics are clear. By the 21st century, the only people on the planet are going to be African black people. Anywhere in the world you go, the birth rate is not high enough, other than Africa and India and perhaps China. The birth rate is not high enough to sustain the populations of Europe, the US, for another 100 years. So it's not high enough. So, all things being equal, people are just going to die out because there's no babies. There's not enough babies. So, you can't make people out of thin air. You can clone, you can come up with all these things, but you're not going to get a real human being other than from existing human beings. So that's clear. My concern and what I would recommend we do and what we're trying to do, you're trying to do it, I'm trying to do it, other people are trying to do it, we is to get ourselves back to the African consciousness
Mm-hmm.
that we operated with for the 5,000 years before we came into contact with these other people. That's 5,000 years that we were on this planet as Africans. And there was nobody else on the planet but us. We didn't know these people. And now circumstances, the sequence of events have put these people in charge of the world that we never knew for 5,000 years. And Van Sertima says for 50,000 years. There was just us. So if we don't get back to that consciousness, my fear is because we know how black people are. Black people always take something to another level.
You know it.
If it's dancing, you come up with dance moves that ain't nobody seen. If it's basketball, you come up with moves and passes and stuff that nobody's ever seen. If it's football, you come up with Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson, with people ain't never seen. If it's boxing, you come up with Ali. If it's ice skating, you come up with what's the girl's name that they changed the rules because
Yeah,
she
yeah, she
too
did the
good.
black flip. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know you're
It's
talking
too
about.
good, so they make up new rules. So we always take things to another level. So here's my fear. Our fascination with Eurocentric thought, and this is a devilish thing, because we have experienced this devilish nature of Eurocentric thought. My fear is that when these people are all gone, we will be left here and our minds have been Europeanized. And if we don't change that, we will give ourselves more hell because we will take that to the next level than these people ever gave us because that's our nature. We take things to the next level. So if we don't straighten this out, we'll be living in a living hell that we haven't seen because we will find new ways to take this same horrible condition that we've lived in for 400 years, 500 years, and we'll turn it into something that nobody ever thought of
Mm,
that's
mm.
worse.
Yeah, I guess they call that the Stockholm syndrome. We're gonna do it better than
We're
we're
gonna
gonna do
do
it better than them, huh?
we're gonna do evil better than anybody did evil.
Mm, mm.
And
It- it-
we see semblances of this. We see it. We see this. We see situations where we can be in the same, like you and I could be in the same police unit,
mm,
and we complain about the conditions, the circumstances, the things that need to be done all the time. And then something can happen where one of us get promoted and we are completely different. we actually say, well, the system makes a lot more sense to me now that I didn't understand this before because I wasn't in it. So now I'm become your supervisor. Now we've been having lunch, we've been riding in the same car for years, patrolling. But if I become the supervisor, it's possible for me to give you hell that you never had before because I'm in charge now. And so I want to kick up my feet on the desk.
Oh,
I want to tell people what to do. And you're the first person I want to teach a lesson.
Doc, and it's something that I wrote about in reference to that. How many times we have said that it was the black one who treated me worse than the white one did?
That's what that's what makes me concerned about this.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because
absolutely.
we want that's what's wrong with Ghana today.
Mm.
Actually, that's what's wrong with Ghana today. When the British left in Nkrumah 1957, the British left. And Nkrumah became president. They put other people in positions. All they wanted to do was to occupy the office that the white people had. They didn't know anything about running a government. They just wanted to kick up their feet on the desk and say they was important.
Mm.
And
You
now
see,
they still trying to piece together something that is alien to African people. What African people ever in history before the Europeans had parliaments? Nobody. Two-party system? Nobody. Fiscal this, fiscal that? Nobody had that. And you have functioned quite well without all this stuff. But
mm-hmm.
now you're invested in it. You act like it's so good that you have to have it. Meanwhile, the European nations, the U.S. that have those systems and invented those systems, they don't even work for us. But you say it's so good, but it don't even work for the people that devised the system
Mm.
because it has to exploit people in order to work.
Yeah, see, and you hit on that point right there, Doc. And this is what I've been telling folk, and this is why not only the African culture and black people is our people. Of course, you want to magnetize towards that, but it's we. That's why I push going back because are you going? It's all you know. You've been indoctrinated with this way of life and way of thinking. That's all you know. And you have to recognize that it's all and there's some other way, and it's criminal to think that there's no other way to do something than when what you've been presented here. And then we're thinking here, okay, and we always think that we can fix our problems for what you just said using the same system. How can you use the same system that took you here to fix your problems? And people don't. I say, look, I'm gonna teach them how to be leaders. I mean, well, what system that you are teaching them to be to how to be better capitalists or something? You got
Ghana,
to put a new system.
Ghana has a proverb for that. It says you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
So
And see, and then Doc, we say, because we say we built this is ours, we got the rights to stay here and things of that nature. I want you to ask yourself a serious question. The ones who say that and think like that. If some of our European brothers were having issues, and a lot of them poor whites, they trying to struggle and survive and being hurt by not having medical coverage and things of that nature, and you over here building a thriving city. We've done that before. The question I want to ask you: do you think the system will leave you alone and let you prosper while other places that where they reside is having issues? Do you really think that?
all we gotta do, we can answer that question. We can answer that question. All we gotta do is Google Rosewood, Black Wall Street, the Black Panther.
Oscarfield, Georgia.
So
You know,
all these things have happened in the past, and we know that nobody's gonna. These people are not gonna leave you alone if you're doing so well and they're not, because history already shows us that, and history will repeat itself.
Hmm. Well, some of us got that delusion that you know, because they can get a house in Beechwood and they, hey, but you just pay. I made an analogy on this. I'm gonna close it up a little bit. I made an analogy in the book too about, because people, I get in some debates with some people and they're like, oh man, it ain't like that no more. You can go out in Beechwood and get any house you want and things. And just because you can buy the same thing somebody, that don't mean that you equal to them, for number one. Okay, but they got those houses back in the day in the 70s for 60, $70,000, if that,
If that.
if that. And now those houses worth 400, $500,000. And your crazy behind want to go out there and give him $500,000 because you want to say that you live in Beechwood now. They don't mind selling it to you and getting their money in reference to that. They don't mind that at all. So, and you think you doing something. Now here's the question. Now those particular houses, look at the equity or the asset that brought to them. When they bought that at 50, now it's at 400. Look at the generational wealth that is being passed on to their children because of racism in the past. Because they were saying, oh, it didn't matter. That was back then. It does matter. Because they still got a leg up like they was giving them land before. When we was not, privy to land, and when they was giving away land. I'm just saying, all the systems were made here to keep their foot on your neck. And I don't know why we as a people, I do know why in a sense, because you can train an elephant and a lion to roll over and do things. For I know psychologically what happened to them, but it just frustrates me to see that we not observing that, Doc.
Well, you said we're comfortable. I say we're delusional.
Yeah.
We're comforted by our delusion. This ain't real life. It's my imagination of things. But all we can do is, we can. That's why I say oftentimes, mental illness is real. Mental
Mm-hmm.
health is real, because we only know what we know. And the people that know the least amount of stuff are the people that are most adamant about what they know. They
Yes.
know the least
Yes.
amount of anything, but they are determined that that is fact, and they can rest on that and say it over and over and over. I say, well, that's one hundredth of what I'm talking about. Well, I don't care because I know this. Everybody knows this, but that's not that much to know.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can see you comfortable with it because you feel like you're informed.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know about things that are also going on in this world. You just don't know them.
Hey, doctor, I ain't gonna hold you much long, but would you say that, you know, I think, because of our lack of history, and I know we've been in survival mode forever, and trying to make it, and maybe some of those things might have escaped us from putting our finger on, but, by understanding and knowing programs like MK Ultra and things, how big of an effect you think, because people need to know what has been going on with our government for a lot of years, and I think that comes with understanding that and knowing that you have been tricked. Once you know those particular things, then you can think about it and say, okay, I'm subject to this game that's been played on me.
Right.
You know,
Well, you keep putting a spin on things that I wouldn't put on them. You say, well, for example, you say we got to find out what's been going on with our government. This is not our government.
right.
This is the government.
Absolutely.
This is the government. If it was your government, you would know what's going on because somebody be asking you, Lim, what do you think we should do? What about this? And you be informed.
Hmm.
The fact that you don't know tells you it's not your government because you don't know
Absolutely.
anything
That's
about
right.
it.
Well. For the record, I never claimed it's to saying this is my country because and that was a bad use of the vernacular for sure. It's saying "our," but I never say it is because, like you illustrated earlier, you don't own nothing. This is not yours. It's
You
not
know,
yours. You're not in control of anything.
but mentally, you've been convinced. That's the trick. That's the magic. The magic is to convince 300 million people in the United States that you own the United States. That's a pretty good trick. When 500 people in Congress and the House of Representatives are making all the decisions, 530 something people
Mm-hmm.
for 330 million people, and you say we in charge.
We're in a democracy. We're in a democracy.
In a democracy.
Yeah.
It's really 500 some people. And now one person is running roughshod over all these people, just one guy.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
He
hey,
just
Doc,
does whatever he wants to do.
let me see your analogy again. I know we talked about it. Your analogy on why capitalism don't work for some people anymore. When you broke
Well,
that down.
capitalism doesn't work for most people. It's not some people, for most people. Capitalism requires exploitation.
Mm.
People have to be exploited. Just
And
like
democracy. Mm-hmm.
in this structure, they call it democracy, but say this, whatever you could give it any other name, it'll still be what it is. But let's say for now, black people eat a lot of chicken, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have never heard one time anywhere where there was a convention, a conference, anybody was interested in what the chicken thinks about this relationship with us. The chicken is the raw material for our sustenance. He has no voice. If the chicken knew what was going on, really, they might stop laying eggs. If they really understood this relationship between us and them, the relationship we have with chicken is exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
And the more chicken we can get for the least amount of money, the better we like it.
Mm-hmm.
So the black people in this country are like chickens. Nobody's asking us what we think about something other than just a formality. They don't really care because we are the raw material to help run the nation.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like a chicken is the raw material. So
Not
when we
stable, huh?
go correct in our stable, we go to McDonald's and we say, "Give me a number two." That's where the chicken comes in. It's just on our order. Nobody
Right.
cares about the chicken. Nobody cares how the chicken is feeling that day, whether they had problems in the hen house with other chickens. Nobody is interested in any of that. We're just getting you to the marketplace so that you can be sold to other people. That's it. So we are similar, even though people won't like this, I'm sure. They think I'm trying to call us chickens. But that's not the point. The point is we are in the same relationship with this government. Nobody cares about us
Mm-hmm.
on either party, if you think about it. Nobody. They to the extent that they care about us, they care about us to the extent that they can keep us quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not complaining. You're not asking for things. And even though you're asking for things, if you notice in your objective, nobody's ever giving them to you. Nobody's ever giving us what we're asking for. We want reparations. We want reparations now. You ain't getting reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Then, now, or ever. But we keep asking for it. Nobody's responding to that. Why don't we stop police brutality? Why don't we stop this? If you think of step back objectively and look at it, nobody cares about these things because nobody does anything about them. And we don't do anything about them ourselves.
Ain't that the truth? Hey, Doc, question. Because some people got the attitude of y'all need to go on back home, go on, get on up out of here, go back to Africa, do this and do that. What you think would happen if black folks left this country?
Well, they'd either have to change the structure because the country is dependent upon a group that can be exploited. So if the group that's been exploited for 500 years all leaves, the structure either has to be changed or you have to exploit someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have to
Would
exploit
it be would an example of that be what what actually was going on in Europe at the time, how they treated themselves.
Oh, whatever history tells us that Europeans never got along with each other, and they
Right.
don't get along with each other today. That's never been the case. If to the extent that we think that, it's only because that's a narrative that they created. They've
Mm-hmm.
never gotten along. They didn't get along from the time they were in the Caribbean when they were all stealing African people. They fought each other in the Caribbean.
This is why we had the Berlin Conference as well
This
with the
Berlin
exploitation of
Conference
Africa.
is the same because they were fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
The UN was created after World War One or World War Two because the death and destruction was so great that they created the UN to try to prevent future problems. And they balkanized it.
Mm.
They balkanized it. So they said one European nation, just to make sure that nobody could go to war on another one, they made it illegal for, let's say, for Lynn, you can make uh, explosives, but you can't get gunpowder. Qua David, you can get gunpowder, but you can't get fuses. You can get this, but you can't get that. So they were trying to make it so that it would be impossible to wage war because you couldn't have total control of war machinery because they didn't trust each other. And they didn't want to take a chance that somebody was going to war against it. So they balkanized the capacity to engage in war. But since that time, they've gotten around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the UN is supposed to do something, but the UN can't stop things that are going on in Israel and Palestine today.
That's right.
It doesn't respond to what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The UN doesn't respond to anything. And the UN determinations are all advisory. So nobody ever had to follow any of them.
So Doc, in closing, so this fight, we talk about Dr. Carter G. Woodson and what he did, as far as our inclusion, you even today you got some even black people talking about, as far as history is concerned, is not necessary. You know, right now we got assault far as on history. This administration, far as books and things, is history that important? Is history that important? Because some of the things that you've been saying, and if we were good students of history, it seemed like it would help our cause.
Well, let me put it like this: African people believe that con- conceptually there's no such thing as history. Everything is happening right now. History is just a way you imagine things, but those things there's only now. All of
Mhm.
it's part of the same time period. But some people, I hear people saying, "Well, I ain't gonna live in the past. Stop living in the past. Stop living in
Right.
the past." And
Hmm.
I say, "Well, now think about this. This is gonna sound maybe too esoteric or way out in left field, but the past is the only thing that you can live in.
Okay.
What you just said, okay,
Hmm.
that's part of the past.
Right.
When we say, what's your favorite color? What was your favorite party? You tell me about an event that's already happened. What's your favorite clothes? You tell me about a time. What's your favorite movie? You tell me about a time that's something that's a part of history.
And you acting in a certain way based on something that happened in the past.
Right. So
Mhm.
history is the only thing that doesn't change that we can reflect on and learn from. Everything that happens in the present becomes historical fact in 2 seconds. I just said that. It's all part of history now.
It's all part of history. Mhm.
So if you try to live in the present becomes history so quickly you can't even enjoy that. That's why we have replays of football plays. The play that just happened, you didn't see it. It happened so fast, you were so excited, you missed it. So they show it to you back again so you can see it. So you can't live in the present. It's too short. In the future, it's just your imagination. And as soon
Right.
as it arrives, it becomes the past instantaneously. So history is all that there is.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
got to learn from that. And the good news about history, that we what we call history, is it's unchanging now. So you can go back at any time. It's still the same way.
Hmm.
It's still there. So these people, I don't blame them. They're just desperate. They're desperate, and they're feeling the possibility that they're going to lose control. And how could they lose? What are all the ways they can lose control? They can lose control through black people's creative music. So we got to take charge of that, because we can't let them have that music, and that works against us because we're vulnerable already. Our demographics say we're in trouble. So the last thing we want to give them is ammunition to work against us. So we'll take that away. We can't let them have their artwork, because their artwork gives them a sense of creativity, confidence, and gets them geeked up. So we can't let them have that.
Hmm.
History lets them find out all the dirt that we've done, that we've been trying to hide. So we can't let them know that, not consciously. So
Hmm.
we take that away.
Hmm.
So these are
Because we gotta keep them thinking that their shortcomings is their fault. But go
right.
ahead.
We got to do that.
Hmm.
And we can't glorify, we can't raise up any of these people, because that's going to tell them they have always been creative. They've always been ingenious. They've always been on the top of their game. And they've always excelled. As soon as we give them any chance, they take over. So if you were feeling like you're going to die out and you're in charge, would you just let the people just become self confident and all self determined and all geeked up about their possibility? Would you do that?
Hey, Doc. You know what I say? You work too hard to get to all the lying, the backbiting, the murdering, and everything else that you done to get to this point. You just gonna let somebody just through natural occurrences of population just move? I mean, and I'm closing this out, Doc. But it just kills me how sometimes that you just named it. You already said it's mental illness, but how we can't even put historical breadcrumbs together to make a good analogy on something these days.
Well, that's why people, see, they haven't been given the tools.
Mm,
It part of our problem is, you know, it's a big responsibility to say you're going to be an independent person. To say you're going to take care of yourself, you know how big of a responsibility that is? I got to figure out how to clothe myself, how to provide housing for myself, how to provide food for myself, how to protect myself. You got to provide all the elements that a culture would actually do yourself. So most of our people don't want to be self reliant and self responsible because it's too hard. They say,
mhm.
I'd rather just go to the job.
I
They'll
see.
just tell me what to do. They'll tell
Mm,
me what to do, and I'll try to do as little of that as I can get away with and get paid. Because what you're talking about, for me to take care of myself, make decisions for myself, organize my time myself, figure out what I'm going to do for my future, that is a big responsibility that our people don't want to assume.
mm.
So it's easier just to get a job or be on welfare.
So
But think about,
is it complacency then?
it's not a complacency so much, is it's it's a it's a recognition that being yourself is a very difficult thing to do. Think about yourself, this show. To put this show on is not just a matter of you sitting down there and click on that TV. You got to do all kind of things that people don't know even exist
Right.
just to be sitting there and having a show. and say welcome to people, this, that, and the other. They don't know what you do 7 days a week, all day, trying to get prepared for this one little hour. But that's a big responsibility that nobody's helping you with. So you got to figure out how to do that. And I'm saying most people, we've been bludgeoned with demand so much that it's almost taken out of us the African nature that would allow us to meet any challenge, no matter what it is, when it is, because we'll say to ourselves is, I got things to do. So it's raining outside. So I'll get wet, or I'll get an umbrella, or I'll do whatever I have to do. Most people, our people, are not going to say they're going to just do whatever they have to do, as Malcolm would say, by any means necessary. You're going to get it done. That's a big responsibility to take on, that most people don't would prefer not to do that.
Mm, mm,
But
mm,
that's what it requires. You use the word several times. To be yourself and to work with other people and to make improvements requires a tremendous amount of sacrifice.
mhm.
Too many of our people feel like they've done something that they shouldn't have to sacrifice no more. They even think that they were brought over here in a slave ship. I said, you ain't going, you wasn't on no slave ship. That's your ancestors 25 generations before you that was on a slave ship. You wasn't on no slave ship. Stop saying that. Y'all took us away from Africa. Nobody took you away from Africa. They took your great, 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 great grandparents from Africa. And they battled for 25 generations for your lazy behind to be born and do nothing. That's what you got to admit to yourself. They sacrificed everything just to stay alive for you to be born, and now
Mhm,
you're complaining about how difficult it is for you simply to be get to work on time.
mhm.
That's a big challenge for you. But your ancestors had to deal with all kind of challenges that you can't even conceive of. And now you got an excuse for everything that happens that you can't do. And
Mhm.
your ancestors, if they could come back, they would probably decide not to give birth to you because it's been a waste of time.
Mm, mm, mm,
So taking care of yourself is a big job.
mm.
We've been dumbed down to the point that we think the social service agency is taking care of us. All we got to do is wait for the next check. That'll take care of us. Everything is supposed to take care of us except ourselves.
Yeah. So, but it's clearly the way you laid it out. Today, it's clearly a psychological issue,
Oh, for
serious issue that we are going through as a people. So, solutions, Doc. That's what I say. I mean, it's look like we got to go here, and that's the point of attack that I always, tend to go here because you got to understand the purpose and the reasons why you're doing something. I say we got to raise the type of people that would pass 10 stores to go to drop their money at the one brother that this and willing to even pay more for the item because they know the purpose and the reasons why they're doing this as a people. Like Tom Jordan say, party with a purpose. If you're gonna party, have a purpose for partying that. I don't, these days, I don't, people ask me to do some things or this. If it don't have a purpose, the end result, even if I do a comedy show, I'm raising money to do something culturally or something for my people, even in fun time. When I used to be on stage, I stopped in the middle of it. I got to deliver a positive message while I'm there, and when I got the attention, I made that promise to God. I'm gonna drop a positive message while I'm out there having fun as well, because we need to be bombarded with those type of things. That's why you think they market to you like they do on the TV shows and on the computer. You got pop-ups, advertising. You're being constantly bombarded with information to deal with your psyche and indoctrination. So
hmm
that's my take on it, Doc. And like I said, your solutions to that. How, just maybe history is what's gonna click, what's gonna cause us to, because we're not looking at our ancestors. They did a great job of turning our back, making us turn our backs from Africa and our ancestral culture. And that's why I try to bring on programs and talk about Africa, because there's a wealth of knowledge and foundational communal wealth that is waiting on us.
Right.
Your thought?
Well, we got to keep trying to explain to our people that you can be a victim of circumstances, which to a large extent we have been a victim of circumstances.
Yes.
Most of our people that we know were 25 generations ago were brought here against their will, taken away from where they were. They tried to hold on to all the cultural elements that they could, because that's what they knew. They went to a foreign place, and so they tried to hold on to everything they have, slowly but surely. And when I grew up, you could still see in Alabama the cultural elements, residue that I see in Ghana every day. You can
Mm-hmm.
still see that. You didn't know what you were looking at, but once you go to Africa, you can say that's the same kind of thing that they did. So you know that it was carried forward. But the people that want to use you for raw material for a large social factory work to beat that out, teach that out of you. So, because it's an impediment to their desire to control you. So, they would do everything they could to get you to forget that, discredit it, and discredit anybody that's talking about it. So, the first step is to recognize that our people have undergone a psychological war that they never knew was going on, and it's heightened with social media and all this technology and all these other things that they didn't know that they can put in your food, they can put in the air, they can put in the water. All of this is designed to diminish your ability and your capacity to think and function and analyze, so that you just follow the narrative, just do what you're told. So it takes a thinking person to decide what to do. Otherwise, you just have to follow what somebody else says.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to first recognize that this is what's happened. And we tell our students, you got to be able to think. You can't fly like a bird. You can't swim better than fish. You can't outrun any animal. You're weaker than almost every animal that you know. So if you're left in the world with just your capacity, your physical capacities, and you have to deal with nature, you're going to die pretty quick. The only thing that separates you from the natural world is you have the capacity to think and plan. And if you don't develop the capacity to think and plan, you're going to be eaten up by life, because you're not equipped with the things. Michael Jackson found that out with that little monkey, didn't he?
Mm.
That monkey is a lot stronger than you think it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't wrestle with no little monkey, no matter how small it is. The thing is too strong, and it can jump around too much. So if you don't outthink it, you're gonna be devoured by it. That's the only capacity we have, is the ability to refine, advance, and improve thinking, analytical skills, and history helps us do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
History helps us to see what did people learn about what they did, and I can apply that right now. What proverbs did they come up with after hundreds of hours of experience? They came up with one little phrase, say, go with the flow. After all the trial and error, they said, go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to Kemet and you go on the Nile River, that's when that hit me exactly what that meant. Because if you're flowing, if the boat is going upstream against the current, it's very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just go with the flow, turn the boat around, it almost sails itself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do no work if you just go with the flow. So So you got all this wisdom that has come from thousands of years of experience that saves you a
That's
lot
my
of
point.
time and
Come
aggravation
on,
if you
come on.
understand it.
Hmm.
Like we
Absolutely.
say, like we say in terms of guidance. I tell the students here at school, I say, you know, a person that travels without a guide takes 200 years for a 2 hour journey because the guide knows all the misdirections that you don't have to go through if you just follow directions.
Yes.
He said,
Yeah.
well, it's right over here. So you was going down that way through those doors all around there. So it took you 200 years to get to this little space, which is right here. So all this wisdom that we could use that's available to us now from
Good
this
point.
ancestral's
Good
25
point.
or 30 generations of experience with these same people,
Hmm.
they survived these people. You think they learned nothing in the process of surviving all this stuff, lynching that we don't have to do, being chased by dogs through the woods that you don't have to do? You think the people just got away and they didn't learn anything that they passed along to the next generation? Say, well, if you want to survive, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to watch this, you got to watch that, so that you got your playbook when you come into the world. So now we got people acting like there ain't no playbook, like nobody left you any direction. So you think you're making up things from firsthand experience that people have sorted out, resolved, learned from, and made up formulas for 200 years ago. Only problem is you just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
You acting like you got it. You got it all going
Right.
on.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
wandering around like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And people that are knowledgeable can see that you're wandering around like a fool. They could just tell you things, but since you say you so smart, they just let you wander.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's why they had societies and rites of passages
That's
and all those type of things,
to
secret
teach you all,
societies and all that. Yeah, to
to
get
teach
you on beat. Hey Doc, before we leave, just tell them a little bit about the school and how, if they have children, if they how they might want to enroll here in Cleveland.
we have a school on 2450 Prospect, Wings Academy, that I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm an educator since 1960. So
Mm,
I've been doing this for 60 years. This is the finest school that you will ever see for our students. So if you want to visit, you can come anytime. 2450 Prospect. We're here from 8 in the morning till school dismisses at 3. You can come visit, you can come volunteer, you can come make a donation, you can see what we do. And if you have children that you think will benefit from an African centered instructional environment, this is the place that you want to be. You certainly want to visit, even if you don't come, because it will be exposure. You'll recognize that there's a different kind of school someplace
mhm,
that's doing the kinds of things that we often talk about. Now, it may
mhm,
not be successful at the highest level with every single person, so nobody's going out bragging and boasting, but it's an opportunity to see what a cultural environment looks like that matches the cultural identity of most of urban children. So at least you will know that something exists. You can even copy some of the things, put them in your house.
mhm,
Those things. People ask me all the time, can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of that? So you can use these things. So at least you'll be aware that there's something else going on. In our school, Lynn has been, we had a school for 20 years. I meet people, they said, I never knew you had a school. How could that
mhm,
be possible? How could it be possible that we have a school for 20 years? As many times as I've been in the paper, as many times we've been in the paper for good things and bad things.
mhm,
20 years, you say, I never knew you had a school. So that means you've been living in a different reality where you
mhm,
haven't noticed something because education has not been one of your priorities. If it was, you would know that there's a school.
mhm. Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right. Because you be seeking to try. If that was in your mindset and your consciousness, that I want to take my kid to a, Afrocentric environment, you'd have been doing the research. So that's just testament to right there that you okay with somebody else teaching your children. Do you ever think they're going to show and teach your children something to outdo them? That's insanity right there.
Not logical.
That's not
Not
logical at all.
logical. It's not logical for them.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a true believer. You feel better about yourself, you do better. And in closing, our good sister, Dr. Parati, gave me a video to look at. She might have sent it to you with Dr. Jack Cruz,
Okay.
Kruse, y'all. Dr. Jack Cruz. Check him out. There was some interesting stuff that he said about going out into the nature and how the healing properties of the UV rays and ultraviolet rays of the sun, and how this blue light is affecting us, even on these screens that we dealing with. He talked about how they went from a green background to this blue background, and then how that particular frequency and those blue lights are damaging us. And this is the reasons why we're coming down with a lot of the ailments that we have right now. And he said it was purposeful. It's purposeful what they're doing to us. So go check it. Dr. Jack Cruz, check him out. And it's some interesting. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that he say, but it's some good science in that involved in reference to that. So, Doc, I'm not going to hold you no longer. I appreciate you again for coming on and imparting some great knowledge for us. And so I hope our listeners got something out of it. Again, subscribe to Vince Robinson's YouTube channel and right here, The Journey with Hamptonio. Subscribe, and we're going to keep trying to bring good information to you. Any parting words there, Doc?
Yeah, I can give anybody have a question for me. I'll give you my email address. Ashe, ASHE, the number 1 LTD @gmail. Ashe1 Limited. Ashe1 LTD @gmail.com. I'll give you any information I have, supports for what you're trying to do. And all in all, just anything I can do is yours.
Mm.
So,
Right on, my brother. Right on. Well, I appreciate you, Doc, for coming in. We're gonna end the broadcast right there. I know you got some things to do. We got to make some money.
We got to make some money.
We're gonna talk about that one day too.
Anybody want to make some money? They can email me on that number too. We need money.
Yeah,
we know how to get money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right then, my brother. I appreciate you. And until next time. Peace.
Love yourself. Be yourself.
Make it a great day, Cleveland. Peace.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All righty.